Imagine you are standing on a bridge over a bustling highway in Mumbai during peak rush hour. You see cars inching forward, brake lights flashing, and a massive bottleneck where 6 lanes of traffic are trying to squeeze into 2 lanes near a construction site. Everyone is frustrated, gas is being wasted, and nobody is actually getting to their destination on time. This is exactly what happens in a project when you have too much work piling up at once. Kanban is our solution to this chaos. Formally, Kanban is defined as a visual system for managing work as it moves through a process. In simple words, it is simply a way to stop the traffic jams in your office by visualizing your work so you can see exactly where things are getting stuck. You have probably seen this at the office where someone keeps assigning new tasks to a team that is already drowning in work. That is a recipe for disaster. Kanban helps us stop the insanity by limiting the sheer volume of work we are trying to juggle. So, now that we have mastered the core concept that Kanban is about visualizing our work to avoid bottlenecks, you might be wondering how we actually build the physical board that makes this possible. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is the anatomy of a Kanban board. Think of that same highway situation. If you could magically paint lines on the road to show which cars belong in which lane, we could direct traffic much more effectively. On a Kanban board, we create those lanes using columns. The formal definition of a Kanban board is a tool that displays the state of work items within a workflow. Simply put, it is your team's traffic map. You have a column for to do, a column for in progress, and a column for done. It is a living, breathing document that tells you the state of your project at a single glance. I remember working with a marketing team that had no visibility. They were just shouting tasks across the room. And the moment we put a physical board on the wall, the confusion vanished. Everyone could see what was happening. When the whole team can look at the same board and see the same reality, you stop having those endless "what are you working on" meetings that eat up your entire morning. So now that we have mastered the structure of the board and how it brings clarity to our chaos, you might be wondering how we prevent those columns from becoming overcrowded with too many tasks. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is the magic of work in progress limits. Stay with me here because this is where the real change happens. Back to our Mumbai highway. What if we had a gate that only allowed 10 cars into the construction zone at a time? If the zone is full, the 11th car has to wait. By stopping the inflow, we ensure the cars inside can actually move and the construction workers can finish their job without being swarmed. This is what we call work in progress or WIP limits. The definition is setting a cap on the number of items allowed in any given stage of your workflow. In simple terms, it means you stop starting and start finishing. If your in progress column has a limit of 3 tasks, you are not allowed to pull a 4th task from the to do pile until one of the existing 3 is completed. It sounds counterintuitive. People feel like they should be busy all the time. But being busy is not the same as being effective. By forcing ourselves to finish one thing before starting another, we clear the lane and keep the flow moving. So now that we have mastered why we need to limit our active work to maintain speed, you might be wondering how we actually identify those hidden problems that slow us down even when we have limits. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is the concept of managing flow and finding bottlenecks. Let's go back to our highway. Even with a gate, what if there is one specific part of the road that is riddled with potholes? The cars will still slow down no matter how few are on the road. In Kanban, we call these slow points bottlenecks. Technically, this is the stage in your process that has the least capacity, which limits the entire system's throughput. Put simply, it is the place where the work always gets stuck. Maybe it's the quality assurance team that is always swamped, or the legal team that needs 3 days to sign off on anything. By watching the Kanban board, you will see a massive pile of tasks building up in front of a specific column. That pile is a giant neon sign saying, "Help us here." As a Scrum Master, you don't just stand there and watch the pile grow. You jump in to help clear the path, reassign the resources, or simplify the process. You are actively managing the flow to ensure that work doesn't just sit there gathering dust. So now that we have mastered how to spot and fix the issues that slow down our progress, you might be wondering how we measure whether we are actually getting better over time. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is the importance of lead time and cycle time. In our highway example, we want to know two things: how long it takes for a car to get from one end of the city to the other, and how often cars cross the finish line. In Kanban, we track lead time and cycle time. Lead time is the total time from when a customer requests a feature until it is delivered. Cycle time is the time it takes for the team to actually work on it once they've started. It sounds technical, but it's just the story of our speed. By tracking these numbers, we stop guessing about deadlines. If we know that on average, a task takes 5 days to move from start to done, we can give our stakeholders honest, data-driven answers instead of making up a date and hoping for the best. It takes the emotion out of the conversation. When you have the data, you aren't just working hard, you are demonstrating your team's real, verified capacity. So now that we have mastered the metrics that tell us how fast we are really moving, you might be wondering how we encourage the team to keep improving that speed every single day. Well, that brings us right into our next step, the cycle of continuous improvement. We have looked at the board, the limits, the bottlenecks, and the metrics. The final piece of the Kanban puzzle is continuous improvement. Think of a marathon runner who shaves 5 seconds of their time in every race. They don't change their shoes every day. They make tiny, sustainable adjustments to their form. In Kanban, we call this Kaizen. The formal definition is the practice of making small incremental changes to improve the process over time. In simple language, it means we never stop looking for a better way. We hold regular meetings to look at our board, look at our cycle times, and ask, what is one small thing we can change this week to work better? It is not about a massive, painful restructuring of the whole company. It is about the power of small, smart, disciplined steps. You have learned that Kanban is not just a bunch of sticky notes on a wall. It is a philosophy of flow, respect, and constant evolution. You now have the tools to clear the highways of your office and help your team reach the finish line, not just with effort, but with true, sustainable speed.